to Donington Park, everybody, for round 4 of the 2025 Ferrari Challenge UK. We've got race 8 of the season coming up for you in what appear to be perfect conditions, really. Just a really light breeze here in the East Midlands, and the cars are making their way out of the pit lane, ready to form up on the grid in advance of this 30-minute race, plus the extra lap that will take place thereafter. It's the penultimate round of the 2025 Championship season, and mathematically, we could be crowning champions this afternoon. In Trofeo Pirelli, we'll wait and see what happens. That is more likely that we could crown a champion there. There is less likelihood in Coupachel, but mathematically, both of those are possible. For what is the 8th race of the championship season. We're on the national circuit, so it's just under 2 miles long. Mark Werrell in commentary is joined by Adam Weller for this weekend in what are now quite favourable conditions. A light wind, track temperature up to 23 degrees, so I would say perfect.
Yeah, close to it, if not exactly perfect. 18 air temp, 23 track, roughly where we were, just within a couple of degrees of where we were yesterday as well. So hopefully some transferable data there going into what is the third last race of the season. You've spoken about the championship implications already, Mark. We know, of course, both championships mathematically can be won here, but we also could end up with a scenario where the run to the end of the season is closer than we were expecting if the pendulum swings against either championship leader.
Yeah, it's all to do in any championship, doesn't matter whether it's the Ferrari Challenge UK or any championship. Consistency is the key, and both Gilbert Yates and Pranav Van Gala, who are first and second in Trofeo Pirelli, have had that consistency so far this year. Mike Dewhurst in Coupachel has had brilliant consistency, and yesterday it looked like Peter Hunter, who was second in Coupachel Championship, was going to be inconsistent because he was in the gravel trap and down to last place at the first corner, but the consistency came back because he fought his way back through the field.
Yeah, he had a really good race performance, almost spurred on by those early dramas, made contact up in Coppice on lap number 2 as well, but fought back valiantly, and I think we could have a valiant fight back today. I think Pranav Van Gala knows that if he'd got a clean lap at the right time today, he may have been infringing on that 16-strong pole position streak for Gilbert Yates.
Yep, so let's just recap what happened in yesterday's race here at Donington Park. Welcome along to Donington Park for the opening race of the weekend. Over the start-finish line, the lights go out and we're away and racing for round 4 of the championship. Peter Hunter has had a small off at Redgate Corner.
Oh, and contact into Coppice. Cars off the circuit there. Leatham then gets through. Darren Howell does get a poor run there out of the chicane, just allowing number 12 through.
Callum Leatham gains a place at the inside of Hemandra Pillai. Joseph Dean sits behind Jonathan Satch, and then there's contact between the pair of them as they go down through the Craner curves.
Well, here comes Rogers to his inside. That is a real loss for Satchel.
Flash of the lights for Gilbert Yates as he comes over the start-finish line, and he has a very sizable 4.3 second lead. Callum Leatham looking up the inside of John Marquardt as they're both trying to squeeze their way past Jonathan Satchel, and he's going to go through and ahead of John Marquardt. Callum Leatham now sneaks up the inside of Paul Simerson on the run in towards the Robert chicane. Paul Simerson dives for the inside. There's contact between the pair of them. Callum Leatham heads in towards the gravel trap. Gilbert Yates wins round 4, race 7 of the 2025 Ferrari Challenge. And the win in Coupachel is going to go the way of Mike Dewhurst. there we go. There's some of the highlights from the first race of the weekend that took place yesterday. Another win for Gilbert Yates, another win for Mike Dewhurst. They both lead their respective categories, whether it be Trofeo Pirelli or Copachel in terms of the 2025 championship standings. That was yesterday, though. We've got today to look forward to. We had qualifying this morning. Say we're on the Donington Park National Circuit. So let's just have a quick look at the layout of the Donington Park National Track. The circuit itself can trace its history back to the pre-war period. It's got some challenging corners to it. You've got plenty of elevation as well. Redgate Corner flows through into Hollywood and down through the Craner Curves to the lowest part of the circuit at the old hairpin. From there, you climb uphill through Schwantz Curve and up towards McLean's, and then the blind entry, double apex right-hander at Coppice brings the cars down the straight and in towards the right and the left flicks at the Robert Chicane. It's just under 2 miles long. It's 1.979 miles long. In qualifying this morning, it was slightly interrupted, and that was because there was an off on the circuit down through the Craner Curves for Callum Leatham. Now, Callum Leatham was fine. He got out of the car and was absolutely fine, but it was at a scary point of the circuit. He just missed the apex coming through the left-hand aspect. That pushed him wide onto the right-hand element, and from there, 2 wheels on the grass. He couldn't get the car back under his control, and it was a hefty off into the barriers. Whilst Callum was okay, the circuit furniture did take a bit of a thumping, and that delayed qualifying for about half an hour whilst the marshals and the circuit staff put the barriers back into place, the tyre wall and the belting in the front of them. So that was a significant delay in qualifying. Callum Leatham, I say, was absolutely fine. The car is not repairable here in terms of the race, and the decision has been taken not to use the spare car. So Callum Leatham has withdrawn from this race, and therefore a revised grid has been issued, which closes up that gap that he would have otherwise taken. So that is the way it works. We're going to go down onto the grid straight away, though, because I think Amanda Stretton and Dave Richardson are down there somewhere amongst the crowd.
Somewhere down there amongst the crowd.
Well, absolutely. There's no crowd that way.
As always, it's a very vibrant feeling, isn't it, as we get ahead of the race, starting just a few moments' time. As Mark and Adam have said, welcome to Donington Park. Welcome to day 2 of our weekend here in Leicestershire. Yesterday was really dramatic, and it's gone the same way today with qualifying, Amanda.
I know it has. We had the most superb race yesterday. Action really from the very beginning, right the way to the very end. And qualifying didn't disappoint either. Obviously, we had that incident with Callum that you guys were referring to just a minute ago. But the grid is all out of sorts, in particular with this guy here, Paul Zimmerson, starting on, well, 3rd row from the back. We're not used to seeing him so far back.
No, Paul is one of these drivers who can really dig deep when he needs to and pull the proverbial rabbit out of the hat and deliver the drive of his life. And I'm not trying to put words into his mouth here, but I'm sure that's what he plans to do. And I don't doubt that you're going to find that out. Because
I'm going to go and have a little chat with him whilst he's out of the car. Sorry, guys. Hi. What happened in quali?
It was an eventful one. We were going into turn one, first part of Craners, and a car moved out, hadn't seen me, and I ended up going straight across the grass all the way down there. It's very bumpy, so taking huge sort of bangs. Managed to keep it straight, but rejoined at old hairpin. But it smashed all the rear diffuser. The front under tray was hanging down front like a snow shovel, basically. So it was so I've got a bit of work to do.
You have a bit of work to do, but look, you've got your fan club here.
Well, boys. At least I haven't got him to lunge me this time.
Okay, so we're expecting great things from you in the race then?
No, I wouldn't say that. Don't do that. I'm going to do my best and try and keep it clean. That's all. And if I get up the grid, obviously I want to go that way.
Yeah, best to go that way.
We shall see. We shall see how it goes.
Okay, well listen, go well, good luck, enjoy. Dave?
Thank you, Amanda. So Paul Zimmerson then is only going to go one way, and that, of course, is forward. Now, we've waxed lyrical many, many times, and in fact, I've been told off by Paul Rogers, who has said to me that I focus more on the livery of his car than I do on his driving talent, which is immeasurable. So good is Paul. So here we are then, as promised, coming to speak to Paul Rogers, who is perhaps the most talented racing driver I've ever met in my life across any racing category. What are you going to do from here today, Paul?
Yeah, I'm just going to have to drive slowly, give the other guys a chance, you know. I wish. Well, Darren's going to see me on his right-hand side during the start, I think. My idea is to push forward and then try and get in behind Dewhurst. And obviously there's a couple of Pirellis in the way, and there's a couple of guys out of position to my side and behind me, I think, as well. So, yeah, it might be a little bit messy, the start. I'm hoping to get round turn 1 and 2 intact.
To be fair, Paul, it's a really competitive grid this year, isn't it? And I think it's fair to say, and you won't tell me off, everyone's had to really dig deep, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, when I was driving the 488 Challenge, I did 5 seasons, and it wasn't as competitive as this. I come back in this year in the 296, which is, by the way, is a fantastic car, and I'm loving driving it. But it's 2/10 between, first and fifth in the class.
Go well, Paul. We've spoken to you on the grid as we promised we would, and we haven't talked about this remarkably beautiful livery, which is absolutely lovely. Amanda.
Well, I'm now here with Darren Howell, who's just having an absolute stormer of a weekend. Paul's just been telling Dave that he plans to come straight past you at the start. But you're on fire. You're not going to let that happen, are you?
No, hopefully not. No, he's too old anyway, Paul is. all thanks to Sean this weekend. Everything he told me to do, I listened to, so...
Oh, okay. Is this going to be how things are going to go from now on?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, listen, go well. Good luck, Darren. I know we're seeing the 3-minute board, so we're going to have to be pretty prompt and just keep making our way further up. There is one car I really want to try and just talk to, and that is Pranav. Well, I'm going to try and talk to Pranav.
Because I think Pranav did a fantastic job in qualifying today, and he very nearly, we're talking about 2/10. You and I were absolutely riveted to the timing screen at the end of qualifying, and Pranav so close to getting pole position.
Pranav, I'm just going to, a very quick word. Qualifying was sensational. You had us at the edge of our seats, hustling for pole position, trading it off with Gilbert. What can we expect in the race?
I'm going to do my best to deliver more of the same. It's really what I'm here for. It's what I love doing. So I'll give it all I've got.
Great stuff. You go well.
And he will, of course, and he's determined. It's a remarkable front row. It's been repeated so many times. You have Pranav Vangala, who really took it in qualifying to Gilbert Yates, who actually did what Gilbert Yates has done so many times before. He put it on pole position. Stand by, here comes race 2 at Donington Park, and your commentators are Mark Werrell and Adam Weller.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you very much, Dave. Good to catch up with the drivers down there on the grid. Tension builds, Adam. We are only a matter of seconds away from getting the rolling lap underway.
Almost 11,000, in fact, just in excess of 11,000 Ferrari brake horsepowers have burst into life. We've got that compelling front row, as we so often do this season, of Gilbert Yates and Pranav Vangala. Pranav was talking a big game yesterday about the possibility and the ability to hang it around the outside going into the first turn at Redgate. Let's see if he can make it happen. He needs to strike early against Gilbert.
He really does, because if Gilbert Yates wins this race and sets fastest lap, then Pranav must finish in second place. If he finishes third, then ultimately, subject to official confirmation, Gilbert's likely to be the champion on count back. That's how close it is. So off goes the safety car onto the formation lap. We should be able to guide you through the grid and the way that they line up for round 4, race 8 of the 2025 championship season. It's a short formation lap here at Donington Park. They'll soon be back round. It's Gilbert Yates that lines up on pole position with Pranav Vangala sitting alongside. Then as we head onto row number 2 of the grid, it is going to be Mike Dewhurst, the pole sitter in Copa Shell, alongside Fedor Samarukov, who had a brilliant qualifying session and lines up 4th. Onto row 3 of the grid, on the inside of the 3rd row of the grid, it's John Markar, and he's got Peter Hunter for company in the light blue car. Peter is the 2nd quickest of the Copa Shell drivers in qualifying. Joseph Dean and Darren Howell, who had his first podium in Copa Shell yesterday, line up there on row number 4. Then as we get towards the 5th row of the grid, on the inside of the 5th row of the grid, it's Hamandra Pillai and Paul Rogers, who we've just heard from on the grid, hoping to make progress moving forward from row number 5. Row 6 of the grid, it's Paul Simerson. Poor qualifying session for him. He's another driver that will look to make progress. He's got Paul Dixon alongside him. And then on to the next row of the grid, which will be row number 7 of the grid. It's Steve Dobson and Hussein Sert that line up there on row number 7. And row 8 of the grid, which is the final row of the grid, sees Jonathan Satchel line up alongside Sean Rand. So the cars are heading round through Coppice Corner. We're about to get racing underway here at Donington Park. So neat 2x2 order as the cars head up towards the Robert chicane. We've got 30 minutes on the clock, plus the extra lap thereafter. The red lights are on the gantry. The lights are off on the safety car, which will peel its way left into the pit lane. And then it is up to the yellow car of Gilbert Yates, the reigning champion, remember, the #1 car, to control the pace. Pranav Vangala will be right alongside him at the start. Red lights on the gantry. For the 8th time this year, we're about to go racing in the Ferrari Challenge UK. Lights go off on the gantry now, and we're away and racing. And it is Gilbert Yates that seems to have the advantage with that all-important inside line as they head up towards Redgate Corner. Can Pranav Vangala brave it out around the outside? He's trying to. He needs to be careful he doesn't run wide, because that might just leave the door open for Mike Dewhurst to squeeze his way through. There's a spin further down through the order and into the gravel trap, but scrabbling his way out goes Darren Howell. So as they all start to descend down through the Craner Curves for the first time, it's Gilbert Yates from Pranav Vangala from Fedor Samarakov, who is up to 3rd overall, and Mike Dewhurst is the early Copa-Shell leader, but he has lost a place. He's dropped down to 4th.
It's Hemandra Pillai that spun out there on the exit of Redgate to the inside of the corner. Looks like his car is rolling. I don't think there was any contact with anybody, but to your point there, Samarakov with a positive start. He's gotten ahead of Mike Dewhurst. Also a positive start for Peter Hunter. He's there in 6th in the overall order, 2nd in Copa-Shell, and Mike Dewhurst isn't too far ahead.
Yeah, there is contact, well, there is damage prepared for the car of Hemandra Pillai. It's the front right-hand corner that has suffered some damage, so quite how that has come about, I'm not entirely sure. We'll pick up on that as cars come over the start-finish line, but it looks like the safety car is being scrambled. So with that car stricken of Hemandra Pillai on the top of Hollywood and the inside of Redgate Corner, safety car is immediately called into effect. I was the same as you. It looked like it was a spin on his own, but with damage to the front, that would suggest otherwise, potentially.
Perhaps he spun out a shot and got collected. We'll keep an eye on the midfield there. We see Hemandra Pillai. We also see Pranav Vangala, yes, being run a little bit wide there. Pillai, he spun. And then, unfortunately, Paul Simerson ended up in the firing line there. Let's hope Paul's damage isn't too bad. He at least continued rolling.
Yeah, so all we were doing was, on the original shots, just seeing Hemandra Pillai spin to the inside and Darren Howell scrabble his way into the gravel trap on the outside. But there is some front left corner damage to Paul Simerson's car, who I think was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But it's definite right front suspension damage, isn't it, for Hemandra Pillai? He will be out of this race before it's really even got underway, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Simerson dropped quite a way off the back of the field on that first lap as well. We can just see him heading back down the Craners at the moment. So hopefully that car is okay. We'll keep an eye on him. Of course, we saw Darren Howell straying off as well. Unfortunate that he wasn't able to capitalise on the first lap on what was a very positive qualifying, but there's a long way to go here in this race. Of course, the field now bunched back up together, but for Gilbert Yates at the front at the very least, it was all systems go, and all systems, frankly, quite normal.
The big gainers with that, who were just able to weave their way past those troubles up there at Redgate Corner, up to 8th place overall, and now 3rd in Copa-Shell. Steve Dobson, that is 5 places gained on the first lap, because he started down in something like 13th position. And also Jonathan Satchel started in 15th place. The number 7 car was up to 10th at the end of that lap. So whilst for Paul Simerson and Hemandra Pillai and Darren Howell, not the best first lap that they'd planned, for others, absolutely took advantage.
No, exactly right. It's all really about positioning and luck through those early corners when there were incidents, and you can see there the damage to the splitter on Paul Simerson's car. There will certainly be a little bit of aerodynamic loss there at the front of the car at 250 kilometers an hour. This Ferrari 296 Challenge car makes 890 kilos of downforce. Unfortunately, the front aspect of that won't be quite the same, and it looks as though, yes, Simerson heading into the pits.
Yeah, such a shame for Paul Simerson, and again, that's just one of those things, isn't it? If you don't quite get qualifying right, because he had the off in qualifying which damaged the rear under tray, that puts you in the wrong position on the grid to where you really ought to be, and then you get tangled up in something that otherwise would be behind you had you have qualified in the right place. And it's just the perfect storm, isn't it? It becomes in reality. So lots of gaffer tape being put onto the car to try and prevent any further degradation of bodywork and flapping bits, just to satisfy the scrutineers and the officials that that car is not going to shed any of its bodywork out onto track, which could then present a danger to fellow competitors and to marshals and officials that are out there. So once they have satisfied the scrutineers, thumbs up will be given and he will be able to rejoin. Out of negatives. This is happening under safety car. If they can get it done quickly, they can catch the train back up again.
Exactly, yes. If he can remain on the lead lap, then that will still be salvaged, but they're working against the clock around this sub-2 mile Donington National Circuit. The safety car train already heading up to Coppice, but there goes the number 77 back out onto the circuit, and Paul Simerson's going to have to try and get his head back in the game. I saw some of the gaffer tape rapidly delaminating there, even just at pit lane speeds, but let's hope that Simerson can continue on. Incidentally, there's been a bulletin on race control there, Mark, that maybe gives a little bit more light into what happened to Hymandra Pillai to send him into Paul Simerson in the first place.
Yes, that is because Joseph Dean and Hymandra Pillai are under investigation for an incident at turn number 1, and that just means that in reality what the officials want to do is look back at the information that's available to them. Now, that might take place during the race. If not, it can always take place after the race when they look at things like onboard cameras and things like that as well. But any sort of car-to-car contact always needs investigating to understand as to whether or not there should be a judgment passed that one driver is at fault or the other, or it's just one of those racing incidents, as the case may be.
No, exactly. They will give that a thorough look and judge what needs to be done. If anything, we saw Hymandra Pillai there making his way back through the gravel into a safe place. Unfortunately, can see his car being craned away, but the fact that it is on the move means hopefully it won't be too long now until we return to racing. Also, Paul Simerson comes past our commentary position without making another visit to the pits, so he must that the car is okay underneath him, and looks like he's used that lap to what the limits of the car are now.
Yeah, he was pushing hard there, because I'm not sure whether that was just a puff of smoke, because he was so hard on the brakes heading in towards Redgate. Caught the pack. Championship, remember, Gilbert Yates coming into this, 15 points for a win would put him on 135. If he were to get the fastest lap, that would put him on 136, which means that if Pranav Vangala finishes in second, he'd be on 104. The championship stays alive. If Pranav finishes in third, that put him on 102, which is 34 behind Gilbert Yates. And in reality, if they both enter Silverstone, there's only 30. They would tie on points, potentially. That if Pranav clean sweeped Silverstone and Gilbert Yates didn't score a single point, but on countback, Gilbert would still be the champion. In Copa-Shell, if Mike sets fastest lap, he needs to keep his fingers crossed that Peter Hunter doesn't single point. That's the only way Copa-Shell could be secured in this race, so that is highly unlikely. So we could crown 2 champions, we might crown 1, we might not crown any. It could go to the final round. So lights are off on the safety car. We're about to get things back underway here. The clock has continued to tick. We've got 22.5 minutes to go. No, lights are still on the safety car. I do apologise. I thought they'd gone off, but no, we'll have one further lap because we have now got Hymandra Pillai's car behind the barriers. However, the telehandler hasn't quite made it behind the barriers in time, so there will be one further lap behind the safety car.
Yeah, one more lap behind the safety car. Regarding what you were saying there, of course, about Pranav Vangala finishing third, he's yet to do that this year. He's had a sweep of second places, except for that one race at Navarro, which, of course, was his first ever win in Ferrari Challenge UK. He's not yet been able to get a second victory because of Gilbert Yates' form this season. Could today be the day?
We'll wait and see and find out. Or might Gilbert Yates make it another victory? That would now make it, if he were to, that would give him 12 career wins in Ferrari Challenge UK, which would still put him 6 behind Lucky Kera, who is on 18 wins. And Lucky, all the very best from everybody here at Ferrari Challenge UK. I know you're suffering some health difficulties at the moment. Everybody here, without question, wishes you all the very best indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. A great figure in any motorsport paddock is Lucky Kera. Scored his 18th victory, the most winning driver here at Donington Park. Gilbert Yates then will be watching the lights on that safety car, and they will be coming off this time by. Safety car is coming in this lap, and Gilbert Yates has a restart to manage. He's got Van Gala, he's got Samarakov, who could yet be an X Factor, up there in third position. Not uncharted territory, but let's see how he does. And then the first of our Copa Shell runners, Dewhurst, there in fourth.
So safety car starting to accelerate away from the pack. Gilbert Yates doing a tiny bit of weaving just to try and build a bit of surface temperature into the tyres. He'll be on and off the brakes as well to try and maintain some brake temperature. And he'll head part the way through the Robert chicane and puts his foot down to try and get a good restart. But Pranav Van Gala is trying to go with him. Fedor Samarakov still there in third place. There's no overtaking until you reach the control line, the start-finish line in reality. And as they head up towards Redgate Corner, the order remains the same, with Dewhurst still there in fourth place, leading Copa Shell at this stage. But it's been a good restart from the front too, hasn't it? Gilbert Yates and Pranav Van Gala stretching their legs, pulling away from the all-black car of Fedor Samarakov, who is in third place, which for him would match his best finishing position of the year so far. He finished on the podium overall at Brands, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Let's see if he can achieve the same heady heights this time. I think a slightly disappointing race here yesterday, but right back up into the top three placings right now with Mike Dewhurst, the Copa Shell leader, behind, of course, someone who is very determined to get their first podium in the Feo Pirelli class, is the man in front of him, John Marker. He only did about minutes. His current set of Pirelli on the car now in, with a view to having some fresh tyres towards the end of the race, because he felt that the tyres were getting to the end of their competitive lifespan by the end of yesterday's race.
Dropped off a little bit and was struggling, wasn't he, with the tyres towards the end of it. So he sits there fifth overall, but as you say, is fourth Trofeo Pirelli at this stage. Everybody else filing their way over the start-finish line as onto lap number 7, including the safety car. Gilbert Yates that time through picked up the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 5.324, still a long way to go, but for the moment the extra championship point for fastest lap is in his pocket.
That's, of course, all important and all valuable. I think that was Van Gala there who maybe kicked up some dust through the old hairpin corner exit, pressing on hard. Meanwhile, we get a look at the recovering Darren Howell. He was having a little look to the inside, and oh, goodness me, in reality, quite well held there by Hussein Sert to keep that car in a straight line, but I'm sure Darren Howell's heart rate jumped up a little bit there briefly.
Yeah, got a bit squirrely, didn't it, Hussein Sert? Fedor Samarakov still there in third place, but to the naked eye, it looks as though Mike Dewhurst is closer to him than he had previously been. Also making progress through with all the gaffer tape on the front of his car is Paul Simerson, so he has now also picked off Hussein Sert. So he'll be up into 13th position at the end of this lap at the wheel of the number 77 car, who's just weaving his way through the Robert chicane at the moment, with the yellow machine of Hussein Sert sitting right behind him. Another new fastest lap of the race to Gilbert Yates, that time through 1 minute 4.969, stretches his lead advantage to over a second for the first time between himself and the number 29 car, his main championship rival, Pranav Van Gala.
Van Gala just getting a fastest first sector in there, personal best and indeed ultimate best of anybody in the session. And look at Yates's pace already into the 104s, which only he and Van Gala could achieve in qualifying earlier on today. 104.968 is some going for race pace, and of course it was about that netted him the fastest lap of the race in yesterday's race, and having clear track there at the front of the field, he wants to try and get that point, of course.
Yep, so through he goes, that time through back into the 1 minute 5s from him, but the lead advantage still comes out up to 1.4 seconds. Paul Simerson, having gained the place from Hussein Sert, is now really struggling to pull away from him, and that is largely down to the damage that's on the front of the car, because it's affecting all of the front splitter of the car, particularly on the left-hand side. That is going to be not an ill-handling car, but it's not going to handle and be quite as compliant to his driver input as otherwise it would be. He's also dragging Hussein Sert with him as they begin to close in on the next two cars ahead, which will be Darren Howell, who is busy fighting away with the number 13 car, the Dick Lovett Swindon car, in the hands of Paul Dixon.
Yeah, so that's a good little battle in the Copa Shell standings. I note that Peter Hunter has fallen off the back of John Marcar a little bit. So Hunter, who runs second in Copa-Shell, losing out to Marcar, which also means that Mike Dewhurst is driving up the road. Of course, in order to extend the championship considerations in Copa-Shell to Silverstone, Hunter only needs to finish. But of course, in Peter Hunter's mind, he's thinking, well, never mind that. I want to gain points over Mike to try and get this title at Silverstone. But right now, with Mike Dewhurst's form here at Donington National, it's looking a little bit of a task for Peter Hunter.
There's a good fight for the final podium spot in Copa-Shell, just heading down toward Redgate Corner. The red car with the white stripe down the centre of it is Steve Dobson. He's got the purple and Dayglow pink machine of Paul Rogers right behind him. Jonathan Satchell coming under pressure towards Redgate Corner as trying to squeeze his way through in the hands of Paul Dixon. Didn't work. Now that's touches of Darren Howell. So in Copa-Shell, busy squabbling away, with Paul Simonson not that far behind them, and then Hussein Sert, who will be the 8th in Copa-Shell. So that's almost a 5-car train, isn't it, picking its way past Starkey's Bridge and up towards Schwantz Curve.
Yeah, Satchell, of course, gaining those places in the first lap, as you mentioned, picked his way through quite nicely. But now it looks like he's under threat from not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 of his rivals in this battle. Of course, Satchell, last time there was that contact moment with the number 12 of Dean, wasn't there, in yesterday's race that we saw on the way down the crane. No doubt. A terrifying moment from the driver's seat. Meanwhile, look at Hussein Sert. He's got himself back past Paul Simonson. So firing back the number 55 driver. Oh, but a little bit loose. A lot of bit loose there out of the final chicane.
Wow, there was lots of arm twirling there to try and get that Ferrari back within his grasp, and that slowed his speed. Paul Dixon up the inside of Jonathan Satchell, gives him room on the exit of Redgate Corner, and Paul Dixon goes through, takes the place away from Johnny Satchell, who now needs to close the door on Darren Howell from working his way past. So it's just the one place lost for Jonathan Satchell, and not unsurprisingly, with that big moment for Hussein Sert coming out of the Robert chicane, it did allow Paul Simonson to go back through and ahead once more. So this quintet of cars, they're all shuffling the order at this stage with 14 minutes plus the extra lap to go. They are on lap number 11 at the moment. The leader goes on to lap number 12.
Darren Howell trying to get himself back into the top 5 here in Copa-Shell at the moment. We have had a further bulletin regarding the Hymandra Pillai and Dean incident, and that is no further action as it was considered a racing incident. Further action though coming up for Johnny Satchell. This time it's Darren Howell alongside him. Howell with the inside line and a bit braver on the brakes as well into the Robert chicane. Nice driving there from Darren Howell. We know he's got the car hooked up well here today at Donington, but he just needs to continue that forward momentum after the early mistake.
Yep, so he will look to see if he can pull away, fresh from in Copa-Shell yesterday. That now means that Darren Howell is up another place. There's still a bit of work to do if he wants to get himself back on the Copa-Shell podium today. Stop him trying and pushing as hard as he possibly down through the bottom of the crane and in towards the old airpit. Satchell having lost a couple of places, in danger of losing a further one, with Paul Simonson right behind him, and then the all-yellow car of Hussein Sert. So they will be fighting for 12th, 13th and 14th position. So it's a Copa-Shell car from a Trofeo Pirelli from a Copa-Shell. You can tell the difference between them. If it's got a yellow windscreen header, it's a Copa-Shell car. If it's got the red windscreen header, then that car runs in Trofeo Pirelli.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a carbon fibre a lap ago that we saw being shed from someone in that battle, and it actually just got run over again on the main Peter Hunt. See there, Satchell losing out to Hussein Sert. Really coming into his own here in this battle, isn't he? He lost out early doors, but now he's profiting off the fight.
Yeah, so he's just nipped up the inside of Jonathan Satchell and got through and ahead of Paul Simonson, so he's pushing hard. It was yellow bodywork, so I do wonder if it might have come off Hussein Sert's following his big squirrely moment and ride over the curbs. Just ahead of them also, keep an eye on the 13 car of Paul Dixon and Darren Howell, because for 10th and 11th overall, 5th and 6th in Copa-Shell, those two are having a brilliant fight.
Yeah, absolutely great battles up and down the field as always here. The battle at the very front is looking to be in relative stasis at the moment, with Gilbert Yates 2.2 seconds clear now of Van Gala, and slightly extending that advantage. Being Can Pranav maybe try and save some tyre for the end for a late push while not losing too much time to Gilbert Yates. Yates is proving to be a problem for his rivals in the Ferrari Challenge UK this season, and quite a difficult problem to try and solve.
So that fight that I was talking about, just coming through the Robert chicane now, the white and red car, Paul Dixon, the yellow and light blue car, Darren Howe, two of them fighting away for the final place inside the top 10, 10th and 11th places respectively, with 11.25 minutes plus the extra lap still to go. They turn their way out of Redgate Corner onto lap number 14 this time through. Now, as things stand at the moment, with Gilbert Yates leading the race from Pranav Vangala and Mike Dewhurst leading Copa Shell from Peter Hunter, if they stay where they are at the moment, that keeps both championships alive as we head to the final weekend of racing at Silverstone.
No, exactly right. This is, as you said, for the last place in the overall top 10. It's also for 5th in class in Copa Shell, so to make the top 5 in class there. And Dixon, for now, placing the car everywhere it needs to be, keeping himself just far enough away from Darren Howell to stay out of the firing line. Let's see if that can hold through the race.
So Mike Dewhurst just heading through Redgate Corner now as our Copa Shell leader, the number 78 car. Now he's got a very small amount of damage to the front, to the rear right-hand side of his car. It just looked as though something was sticking out a bit more on that side. Yes, there is. Yeah, there's something, isn't it? So maybe, yellow bit of bodywork that we saw, it might not be in Hussein insert. Maybe it was Mike Dewhurst's car.
Maybe so.
I think so.
Damage certainly on that number 78 car. Looking at the opposite side, it would be blue bodywork, or blue wrap anyway, but of course the actual colour of the bodywork is another question. But nonetheless, the pace of Mike Dewhurst certainly isn't being hindered by that little flesh wound to the car. Once again, keeping pace with those who have podium potential in Trofeo Pirelli, keeping Samarakov in a fairly close radius in 3rd and 4th overall, and then of course he's still just ahead of John Marker in 5th place overall. This has been a really solid weekend for Mike Dewhurst. We were having a joking conversation earlier on talking about how long it is until the inevitable promotion. Of course, if he wins the Copa Shell Championship at the conclusion of this season and he comes back to us for 2026, he will come back as a Trofeo Pirelli driver.
Yeah, he only just missed out on the Copa Shell Championship last year. It was literally the final race, the final corner, that almost decided whether he or Robert Rees were going to be the champion. And as it was Robert Rees that became the champion, but Robert is focusing on business commitments and I think the potential of moving abroad, so he's not back to defend his title. That fight that we're talking about, Paul Dixon and Darren Howell still together. Paul Dixon was slightly slower coming off Redgate Corner that time through, as again there was a very small wiggle from his car as he tried to get on the power as soon as possible, but he's doing a very good job of just keeping it at arm's length and palming away the aspirations of the number 5 car of Darren Howell from JCT 600. So the two of them again up towards the left-hand flick at Schwantz Curve, in towards McLean's Corner, and it's still just at the moment Paul Dixon that hangs on to that 10th position as they head up towards Coppice.
Yeah, Darren Howell looming large in the mirrors, but it seems as though Dixon can just focus forward and not make any silly errors, but that's a good run out of Coppice from Howell.
It is, yeah, he draws himself alongside, he's got the inside line. Is he brave enough on the brakes as he gets towards the Robert chicane? He brakes that little bit later as well, he gets the car stopped, he gets it turned in, and Darren Howell now goes through and up into 10th position. Down to 11th place goes Paul Dixon. That also now means that Paul Dixon has now dropped down to 6th place in Copa Shell with 8 minutes to go plus the extra lap. Our leader is still Gilbert Yates. He now leads by 4.1 seconds from number 29, Pranav Vangala.
Dry smile, I'm sure, from Sean Doyle, the driver coach of this number 5 driver. Darren Howell with 8 seconds between himself and Paul Rogers. That's probably all the progress he can make, but saying that, he gained 6/10 in the first sector alone. It would be a big ask to make any further progress, but let's see as we head back to this 3rd overall battle between Samarakov and our Copper Shell leader, Mike Dewhurst.
Yep, so over the start-finish time now come the all-black car, number 88 of Fedor Samarakov, representing HR Owen, is under pressure from the car from Dick Love at Swindon in the hands of Mike Dewhurst. They head through Hollywood and then down through what in one of these cars must just be such an exhilarating part of the circuit, down through the twists and the turns and the undulations of the Craner curves, and then through the old hairpin. It might be called a hairpin, but it's a very, very quick corner to take. It's in 4th gear that corner is taken, and you do carry a lot of apex speed through the old hairpin. It's a much quicker corner than you would expect.
No, it is. It really is edge of the seat driving. At the front of the field, Gilbert Yates is now into traffic, having just dispatched Jonathan Satchell, who runs 14th overall, to put him a lap down. So Pranav Vangala will be hoping with the clean air to maybe slightly shrink down that gap and then maybe get the best of the traffic himself. The 85 in a spin. Sean ran, just trying to get the car back the right way.
Yeah, Sean ran wide, didn't he, as he came out of the Robert chicane, and I think that was part of the problem. So he gets it pointing back round in the right direction and will continue on his merry way. So he was running in 15th position with the spin. It hasn't lost him a place, but it does mean that now he is dropping into the clutches of traffic that's going to place a lap on him, and the next of the cars that is going to catch him is going to be that light blue car of Peter Hunter, the number 82 car, the Stratstone Manchester car. Peter at the moment running in 6th place overall, but more importantly 2nd of the Cooper Shell cars, which keeps his championship hopes alive.
No, exactly right. Peter Hunter has had a solid weekend here at Donington Park. Of course, in that first race, he had a bit of a rear to midfield run from 17th to 8th, wasn't it, by the end of the race? Really solid effort in that race from Peter Hunter. He's 6th overall at the moment. Critically, of course, 2nd in Cooper Shell. And that championship duel between himself and Mike Dewhurst will stretch out to Silverstone. He is going to have to rally to beat 8.
We change of position down in 13th and 14th place. Number 7, Jonathan Satchell's got himself back ahead of Paul Simerson on that lap, so that's been a small little shuffle for order. Is Mike Dewhurst still catching Fedor Samarakov? Yes, is the answer. So for 3rd place overall in the race, the black number 88 car Fedor Samarakov was 0.4 of a second slower than the Cooper Shell leader Mike Dewhurst. So that's something to keep an eye towards, I would say, those two beginning to close in.
No, absolutely right. Remember I said that I didn't think Darren Howell was going to make any further progress? Well, that was when he was 8 seconds behind Paul Rogers. He's now 4.7 back. He's gaining at a rate of knots. Again, with 4 minutes and 20 seconds plus 1 lap of this race to go, it would be an ask, but Darren Howell has the bit between his teeth at the moment and would like a couple of extra championship points if possible.
Yeah, one person who's on for good championship points is the man who runs 3rd in Cooper Shell at the moment, number 25, Steve Dobson. He's just working his way out of McLean's corner. This is the red car with the white stripe right the way down the centre of it. And for Steve Dobson, he yesterday in the race finished down in 4th in Cooper Shell. Now, we saw Darren Howell claim his first Cooper Shell podium of the season yesterday. If Steve Dobson can hang on to the position that he is in, he is on for his first Cooper Shell podium of the year, as he's about to flick his way over the start-finish line now in the number 25 car. Through he goes. 8th place overall, 3rd in Cooper Shell. If he can hang on to that for 3.5 minutes plus the extra lap, he's going to be a first-time podium visitor.
Great stuff for Dobson. Here's Mike Dewhurst on the back of Samarakov. The battle for 3rd overall has closed up, and Mike Dewhurst is now within attacking range. John Markar will be working on within, of course, because he's that far removed from a potential Trofeo Pirelli class podium if he can get Samarakov. If Dewhurst begins to gap here, 3-car battle.
Yeah, they're just heading out of Coppice Corner now and in towards the braking area for the Robert chicane. So the black car of Samarakov, the yellow, red and blue car of Mike Dewhurst. The next of the black cars will be John Markar, and they come out of the Robert chicane and over the start-finish line now. That is now 21 laps completed, and those 3 cars are separated by a little more than 1.2 seconds. There's a flash of the lights from John Markar. It might be his first season of racing, but he's already picked up on some of the little tricks to try and put the driver off that lies ahead.
Yes, he admitted he was using that button a few times during qualifying on laps that were looking very good, and then unfortunately went by the wayside in the final chicane. He's definitely figured out what that button on the very, very complicated Ferrari 296 Challenge steering wheel does, and he is now closer to Dewhurst than Dewhurst is to Samarakov.
So just through McLean's corner and then up towards corner, which is the highest point of the Donington Park National Circuit. You can see Mike Dewhurst's car. It was almost sliding its way in towards Coppice Corner with a very small amount of turning oversteer, I think. Now the tail end of the car just over-rotating very, very slightly. Our front 2 are now separated by 6.4 seconds, the gap from Gilbert Yates back to Pranav Vangala. We've not seen a great deal of Gilbert Yates. That's largely because Gilbert Yates has done what Gilbert Yates has been doing now for pretty much 2 seasons, just getting on with the job in hand.
He does. He just has a masterful control over a motor race. Once you let him get to the front of the field, he often does just seemingly have that cutting edge, that last little boost that he needs to stay at the front of the field. A couple of laps left for him to manage things at the front. 6.2 seconds between himself and Van Gala.
Down through the old hairpin goes the fight for 3rd, 4th and 5th place. Fedor Samarakov from Mike Dewhurst, from John Markar. And if you're Mike Dewhurst, what you won't want to do is press the point with Fedor Samarakov. Yeah, OK, it might be all well and good finishing 3rd overall in the race, but it's the top step of the podium in Copa that he wants, and that's where he is at the moment. So is it worth trying it, risking it, and it not working? If I were Mike Dewhurst, and I think this is the way he'll be thinking, stay where you are, stay in 4th, you'll still get the Copa win.
I'll tell you what, I owe Darren Howell an apology. He is closing in. I said I thought he was done once he got to 5th place in Copa with an 8-second gap between himself and Rogers. But as they, I think, are around Coppice Bend at the moment, the gap was 1.2, 1.3 seconds. It is now within a second. Darren Howell is on the offensive here for 4th place in Copa, hunting down the number 25.
Yeah, they'll just be in the middle sector of the lap at the moment, so they'll be exiting Coppice Corner and working their way down towards the Robert Chicane. Peter Hunter just about head over the start-finish line. He's in 6th place. Joseph Dean in 7th. Steve Dobson in 8th place. And then it'll be Paul Rogers, who is now under enormous pressure from Darren Howell, who was fully caught and is trying to wiggle his way through and past as they head up towards Redgate Corner. Is he going to be able to make it stick? I don't think he is. That other battle that we're talking about is just heading round through McLean's Corner now, and Mike Dewhurst, I think for me, has done the sensible thing. He's let John Markar go through. He's lost a place overall, but he still leads Copa.
Yeah, I don't know if that was intentional or not, because he was way offline immediately post Old Hairpin, so I don't know whether he made a slight slip-up or whether he decided to let Markar through. Let's see if John can do anything with that. Our race leader then has begun the final lap of the race. Gilbert Yates at the front of the field just through the 1st sector split, and we'll keep an eye as well, of course, on those other battles around the circuit.
Yeah, so Gilbert Yates is just coming up to that Paul Rogers and Darren Howell battle, which is just approaching Coppice Corner. Now, the good thing for Gilbert Yates is with 6.9 seconds in hand, he doesn't necessarily need to place a lap on these 2 cars, and I'm not sure he's going to get there anyway, because they're just sufficiently far enough up the road and ahead of the race leader, who's going to back things off coming in towards the Robert Chicane for the final time. Through the right, through the left, up towards the start-finish line, and Gilbert Yates is going to claim another victory. Round 4, race 8 of the 2025 Ferrari Challenge UK goes the way of Gilbert Yates, but with Pranav Van Gala about to come through and finish in 2nd place, that keeps the championship alive still in Trofeo Pirelli. Who's going to finish in 3rd place? Fedor Samarakov was still in 3rd place when we last picked up on it, but John Markar was still busy flashing his lights, trying to grab his first podium in Trofeo Pirelli.
It was a fairly hefty gap, though, of 2 to 3 seconds, I think it was, between Samarakov and Markar. I'd be surprised if that changed hands. Here comes Samarakov behind the satchel. Simerson battle, and it will be Fedor Samarakov, that rounds out the top 3.
With John Markar finishing in 4th place, and Mike Dewhurst in 5th claims the win in Copa and that means that the Copa Championship is going to stay alive as well, because Peter Hunter should be the next car through to take the checkered flag. We have still got that squabble going on, have we not, between Paul Rogers and Darren Howell. They work their way past Sean Rann as they head down the straight and in towards the braking area for the Robert Chicane. I think Paul Rogers is just going to hang on to it. Darren Howell brakes as late as he can, tries around the outside. He's going to see whether he can get a better exit coming out of the Robert Chicane, but it does look as though Paul Rogers is just going to cling on to the spot. But what a charge from Darren Howell to close that gap and get there, and then apply the pressure.
Yeah, that was a really good drive from Darren Howell. It will be an element of what could have been, given that off-track moment on the first lap, on the first corner, avoiding some of the other stuff that was going on to his right on that first lap of the race. He's proving, though, consistently now that he's got podium pace within Copa. We saw him on the podium yesterday, and I suspect he'll be hunting for more trophies when we head to the season finale at Silverstone.
So there we go. That's another win now for Gilbert Yates. That now means that is 7 wins for the season. It is 6 wins on the trot for Gilbert Yates in Trofeo Pirelli. And Mike Dewhurst picks up another win in Copa. But as we say, their main championship rivals on each occasion. In Trofeo Pirelli, Pranav Van Gala finished 2nd. In Copa, Peter Hunter finished 2nd. So that does mean that mathematically the championship title in both, as long as we've got the maths right, subject to official confirmation and all of those caveats, still stays alive until the final weekend of racing at Silverstone. So Gilbert Yates, crash helmet on, but you can see there's a big smile on his face as he congratulates the team and, of course, his pro driver, Tom Fleming, who worked so hard with Gilbert to extract the performance out of him.
Yeah, no, Tom's quite complimentary about Gilbert Yates's abilities, not just as a driver, but also as a student, takes in the advice that's given, and we are seeing that combination of the coach and Gilbert's immense talent paying dividends again and again and again this season.
Yeah, and talking of people with immense talent, I think very shortly we'll be getting an interview because I can see Dave Richardson is down there with our race winner, Gilbert Yates.
Thank you very much. And here we are. Gilbert takes on some well-needed water. Ordinarily, Gilbert, you're really just calm, cool, collected. Did I hear a little shout of yes as you got out of the car?
You did, because that was important today, that race. I wasn't feeling myself in the qualifying, but we just about got the pole. So in the race, I thought, is he getting quicker? But in the first 3 laps, I noticed in the mirror he was track limits and down Old Herp, and he was hitting the dust. So I thought, I'll keep this pace, and he might burn himself out. So we got a gap.
This is where, when we look at your racecraft, we're full of admiration for you because you appear to be millimetrically perfect on the tarmac. Now, that cannot be your driver coach. That's you. You're pedaling that car.
Not at all, but that's a nice way for you to say I'm old and fast.
Well, listen, many, many congratulations. Of course, from our point of view, I'm sorry to say, for you, the championship now goes to Silverstone, which, of course, from an entertainment point of view is brilliant, but you've got to nail it now there.
Yeah, but I've just got to turn up.
Best of luck, and well done today. Great job done, and brilliant race in Coperchel as well. And Mike Dewhurst is with Amanda right now.
He is indeed. Mike, congratulations. It looked like you were playing a bit of strategy there. You were letting some of the Trofeo Pirelli cars through. Were you just focused on getting the win?
Yeah, I wasn't going to gain anything by going past Fedor, so just followed him around. He made a couple of mistakes and backed me into John, so I thought better let him through rather than have a ding-dong on the last couple of laps.
The championship is still very wide open, but Peter was, of course, closing in. He's been very consistent. Did you see him at all in the race?
No sign of him. It was, I think there was too many cars between us.
Okay. So how are you feeling now? Again, you've just had another really dominant weekend. You must be really excited going into Silverstone.
Yeah, I think it's looking really good. A good first race at Silverstone, and that'll take all the pressure off, won't it?
Yeah, I will. Well, best of luck. Huge congratulations. Another absolutely perfect demonstration of racecraft. Mike Dewhurst, go and enjoy the podium. I would like to just try Steve Dobson. Where are you? Because he was just here. Steve, come out. You're very tired and very old.
Yeah, hi.
But look, your first podium as well of the season. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Even a blind squirrel catches a nut occasionally. It's a miracle. Thank you very much.
But look, everybody in your team was cheering for you. It means such a lot, doesn't it?
It really does, honestly. It's ridiculous. It's third place. It's not a win, but it feels like a win for me. They've had a pretty crappy season so far. So really, thanks to Rob and Johnny, wherever Johnny is. They're very encouraging. Oh, there he is over there. Look, bless him. They really encouraged me all through the weekend, even though we had bad qualifying. So I really appreciate your help, guys, honestly. Thank you.
Well done. Well, listen, well done you as well, Steve. Fantastic performance. I think we can say overall, guys, that has just been a tremendous race.
A brilliant race, and I love the analogy. I absolutely love the analogy from Steve Dobson. Even a blind squirrel occasionally catches a nut. I'll have to remember that one.
Yeah, never mind the broken clocks, eh?
Let's confirm the results for you then for race 8 of the season. Gilbert Yates claims the win by 8.5 seconds in the end from Pranav Vangala in second place. And for the second time finishing on the Trofeo podium this year, it was Fedor Samarikov who finished in third place. John Markar was fourth. Mike Dewhurst takes the win in Coperchel and finishes fifth overall, sixth overall and second in Coperchel, and got the extra point for the fastest lap in Coperchel goes Peter Hunter with Joseph Dean in seventh. And Steve Dobson, first time onto the podium in Coperchel this year, as we've just heard from. Paul Rogers was there in ninth place, and Darren Howell tried everything, but ended up in 10th in the end, but a brilliant drive from him. Paul Dixon was there in 11th place. Hussein Sert was 12th with Jonathan Satchel in 13th. And Paul Simerson, it all went wrong at the first corner for him. Carrying the damage was always going to be a problem for him as he finishes in 14th place. Sean Rann was 15th and sadly not making it out of the first corner was Hemandra Pillai. So that is the results for that particular race. And as we say, the one good thing is it does keep the championship battles alive. If I've got the maths right, I think there's 32-point gap between Pranav Vangala and Gilbert Yates in Trofeo Pirelli, and a 20-point gap between Pete Hunter and Mike Dewhurst. Let's look back at some of the highlights from the race that we've just seen. When the lights went out for the final race here at Donington Park this weekend, it was Pranav Vangala and Gilbert Yates that once again lined up on the front row of the grid as they went up towards Redgate Corner on the first lap. Keep your eye in the middle of the pack and you'll see there was a little bit of contact, which meant that Hemandra Pillai was pitched into a spin right across the nose of Paul Simonson, who had nowhere to go. And Darren Howell had to take evasive action, scrabble his way out of the gravel trap at Redgate Corner. That would put Hemandra Pillai out on the spot. It would bring out the safety car, and it would mean that Paul Simonson would have to call into the pits for some repairs. Paul Simonson was having a great fight with Hussein Sert. They would swap positions on several occasions, and Jonathan Satchell was involved in a good fight with Paul Dixon and Darren Howell, but Jonathan Satchell just seemed to lose pace as the race wore on. He would drop down through the order, losing a place to Paul Simonson and another place to Hussein Sert purely in the braking area for the Robert chicane. Hussein Sert diving up the inside of the damaged car of Paul Simonson as they continued to shuffle for positions. With Darren Howell having been delayed at Redgate Corner, his focus was on trying to make progress back through the order, which he was absolutely doing, closing in on the cars ahead. In the meantime, Mike Dewhurst would still continue to lead Copa Shell, but he was involved in a good fight with Fedor Samrakov and with John Marquardt, eventually letting both of those cars through because, of course, he was focused on his efforts in the Copa Shell Championship. But it would be Gilbert Yates that would come through to make it 6 wins on the bounce in race 8 of the 2025 Ferrari Challenge UK. As we say, it's another win in Copa Shell for Mike Dewhurst. But that means the championship still stays alive into the final weekend of racing. So we can see the crowd is assembled there in advance of the podium presentations. We'll be heading down to those very, very shortly indeed. And I think as soon as we get the nod, we can hand you down to Dave Richardson, who's down there to conduct our podium presentations.
Welcome to the podium area here at Donington Park for the second of our podiums this weekend, as I do my level best to hold the professionalism together despite Peter Hunter, who we'll get to in just a while. Trofeo Pirelli podium first up, of course, and taking P3, please give it up for Fedor Samrakov. Way to go, Fedor. Taking P2, here comes Pranav Vangala. And on the top step of the podium, it's Gilbert Yates. Here comes Gilbert then. And of course, the Charles Hurst team will be represented on the podium as well. So we look for a representative from the Charles Hurst team to come and take the Copa Team Award. Now, we're delighted to say that Federico Pastorelli, Ferrari North Europe Regional Manager, will once again be presenting the trophies. And here they come right now. First up, of course, for Fedor Samorukov. Thank you. Fedor, well done. Up next, the P2 trophy goes the way of Pranav Vangala. And here comes the P1 trophy right now for Gilbert Yates. Copa Teams trophy will be presented to representative from Charles Hurst, whose name I know not, so he's Robbie, as far as we're concerned. Well done. Up next, of course, because we're not done with the trophies, Andrew Johns is here from Pirelli Motorsport. Thank you, Andrew. And he will make the Pirelli presentation to Gilbert Yates. So, gentlemen, if you will, please hold those trophies up high. Let's celebrate your success here at Donington Park in the Ferrari Challenge UK. Oh, to heck with that. Let's get on with the champagne shower. I don't know who won that, to be honest. I wasn't paying enough attention. What the heck? It matters not. They're enjoying themselves, and that's what matters. Well done, Fedor Samarukov, taking his first podium this season, richly deserved. We're just going to reshape the podium, as you can see, and get the guys back there for the focus of the media, because they really rather went too quickly with the champagne, and we need the official photographs. And Jason Harris, who does a really good job from a PR point of view, is trying to herd sheep. That's racing drivers. A big shout out to Claudio Roro, who within seconds has prepared the podium for Copa Shell. Let's big it up for these drivers who are on their way to the podium right now. Hang on, we'll just wait for Jason and his set piece to camera. And it is time for the Copa Shell podium. At long last, I'm tempted to say, P3 Stephen Dobson is on the podium. Taking P2, here comes Peter Hunter. And there's a familiar ring to this. On the top step of the Copa Shell podium, it's Mike Dewhurst. Once again, we invite a member of the management team of Dick Lovett Swindon. In fact, one of the most senior members of the management team. Look at those legs, would you? Up there for Dick Lovett Swindon. And once again, Federico Pastorelli is going to make the trophy presentations. First up to Steve Dobson. He dug deep for that, richly deserved, only with half a driver coach today as well. P2 for Peter Hunter and Mike Dewhurst with another P1 trophy. And, of course, a Copa Team trophy to Dick Lovett Swindon as well. Thank you, Federico Pastorelli. Great job done in terms of trophy presentations. Hold those trophies up high, guys. Big, big smiles all around. Hang on, hang on, hang on. We're not quite ready yet. Who's going to win the champagne race? My money will always be on Peter Hunter. Funny that, but let's see. So the photo's done very nearly, and we will see who gets to the bottles quickest. It was Peter Hunter, in my opinion. So there we have it then. The podium's done and dusted down here. Back to you.
Thanks, Dave. So that's our podium presentations done and dusted for Trofeo Pirelli and from Copa Shell. So let's just have a quick look back at the slow-mos of those particular drivers that we've just seen on the podium here at Donington Park. It was Steve Dobson in the number 25 car representing Dick Lovett Swindon that finished in third place in Copa Shell, his first Copa Shell podium of the 2025 championship season. Peter Hunter came through to finish in second place again once more at the wheel of the number 82 car representing Stratstone Manchester. And the top step of the podium went the way of Mike Dewhurst in the 78 car representing Dick Lovett Swindon. Those were your top three drivers in Copa Shell. Then as we look to Trofeo Pirelli, it was Fedor Samarukov for HR Owen with his second podium of the season in Trofeo Pirelli that finished in third place. Second place in Trofeo Pirelli went the way of the number 29 car of HR Owen driver Pranav Vangala. But the top step of the podium goes the way of the reigning champion, and you could argue champion-elect now, for Charles Hurst Racing. Gilbert Yates was the winner of the race overall and was first home in Trofeo Pirelli for the 7th time in 2025. And those are your top three drivers in each of the respective classes. And so that's it. We are done and dusted with round 4 of the championship, but let's just confirm the points for you at this stage as we head to Silverstone and the final races. Gilbert Yates leads the championship on 136 points from Pranav Vangala, who is on 104. So that is a 32-point gap with only 35 available if we include the extra point for entering. So you could argue there's only 34 available, because if they both enter, they'll both get the point. So he's almost there, but mathematically, it's still open. Paul Simerson lies third in the championship on 86. With a comfortable gap now between himself and John Markar, who is on 58 in fourth, with Callum Leatham just 4 points behind in fifth place. Fedor Samarukov is there in sixth, and then it's Bal Sidhu, Joseph Dean, Hemandra Pillai, and Oscar Renjevic that complete the top 10 in Trofeo Pirelli. If we look towards Copa Shell, well, again, that championship is still alive as we head towards Copa Shell conclusion. 22 points now is the gap between Mike Dewhurst, who is on 126 points, from Peter Hunter, who is on 104. But remember, arguably 34 points available, so that is not a done deal as yet. Paul Rogers is on 62 points, some way adrift He lies there in 3rd place, and Stephen Dobson now moves up to 4th as a result of a good weekend for him. Darren Howell drops down to 5th in the championship standings, but there's only 4 points between the pair of them. Paul Dixon is 6th, ahead of Hussein Sert, who's 7th. Jonathan Satchel and Sean Rann wrap up the points, and that is the way that the points look as we head towards the final 2 races, which will be round 5 of the championship, taking place at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit on the first weekend of September. So from Amanda Stretton, from Dave Richardson, from Adam Weller, myself, Mark Werrell, and everybody here at Ferrari Challenge UK at Donington Park, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time out at Silverstone. So until then, it's goodbye.